If you were to choose a place in Idaho that you consider the most haunted, where would it be? Speaking of Spirits discusses more haunted Idaho locations. Tune in, find out what they are. Hey everybody, this is Colleen with Speaking of Spirits, and I've got my sidekick Tim.
Woo-hoo.
And Katie.
Hello everyone.
And on the phone somewhere in Nebraska is Mark.
2 glasses of wine in.
Nebraska, but then I'm Wyoming, so that's not.
That's even worse.
Oh boy.
Honestly.
I'm excited that Mark is joining us today because we never get to talk to Mark, and we figure we're going to figure out a way to get him on the podcast one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's right. We're trying out some new technology today.
yeah, we'll see how it goes. So today we have yet another episode of Haunted Idaho Locations, and I know that you're probably thinking, how many haunted Idaho locations are there? But there are thousands.
Literally every square inch.
Yeah, and like every state, right? I mean, almost everything has got activity in it, but some of them really stand out.
And I feel like since Idaho is less populated, we're more aware of these things.
Maybe that could be, definitely.
Like there's less noise, there's less busyness.
Yeah.
Well, there's other aspects of it too. We have a whole lot of natural resources and water,
that's
and
true.
we are the gem state.
Oh, yes,
I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're recording, right, Tim?
The red button is on.
Okay, just making sure. Okay,
Tim.
So Tim, why don't you go first with one of your locations?
Well, okay. One of the ones that I was going to talk about was downtown Pocatello, Idaho.
Nice.
So spooky. I love it so much.
Uh-huh. And I've had a lot to do with downtown Pocatello, Idaho in my life. And it's kind of cool. Like the whole area. We had the opportunity to investigate the old Yellowstone Hotel a year ago? More than a year ago.
A couple of years ago.
Okay, we're going to say a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Time flies.
Yeah. And
I think it was 2020.
I reviewed some.
was it that long ago?
I
Yeah.
think it was.
I think it was 2020.
Holy cow. Anyway, not that long ago.
Right.
But kind of long ago. Wow.
And it was all around a cool experience. But I grew up on Arthur. So that's one of the main
Did you
roads.
really?
Mm-hmm. It's now called the Shady Lady. It's a
You
lamp
did
shop.
not.
That's the
Wait, you
greatest.
grew up in the Shady Lady?
Yeah, that was my old house.
Oh,
It's such a great house.
Oh my God, that house is so.
So back in that day, it was blue and white, and it was originally called the Sunburst Home because it has a second story and there's like an attic thing on it. That was my bedroom, and originally it had like the sunbeam wood trim siding on it.
Oh, cool. Wait.
Nice.
Was the window like round?
No, it wasn't a round window. It was just the siding was like a
Nice.
sunbeam thing.
Oh, gotcha.
Nice.
Okay.
Inside. You mean the wood
Right.
inside was just like the
Outside.
Outside.
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah. And it was the first lawyer's house, I guess.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it was later on put into a duplex, but it was his house and then his office. That's
Okay.
kind of how it was set up. And that's why it has that round porch with the 2 doors.
Right.
Anyway, I grew up there from 0 to 13, 14. That's where I
Wow.
lived.
That house is freaking nuts.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So
And-
what places in downtown do you think are really haunted?
Is the shady
Besides
haunted?
all
Yeah.
of it, I know.
So I think it's all connected.
Yeah.
So I bring up my house that I grew up in because it had a cellar, and it was an old root cellar, for lack of a better explanation, but it was dirt and it was pretty big. But I went down there a couple times, and each time I went down, I found something that I thought was cool, but looking back on it was weird.
Another brain story.
So my house was mentioned in the paper in Pocatello. There was a railroad worker who got his leg severed, and apparently the house that was my old house was the bestest, most completest house there at the time. And
This is not the story about the leg, the missing leg.
yeah, that's the one.
What? I
And the
read this
shady
story. Mm-hmm. This is the best freaking story ever.
Yeah, so that's
Oh my God, tell it.
my old house. So the Stanrod house was being built, and that house was done.
By the way, Stanrod House,
Yeah.
also amazing.
Stanrod
And-
House is amazing.
And they're neighbors.
Yeah, right
that's-
across the street, right?
So,
not across, it's the same
leg, The leg. Get back to the
Sorry,
leg.
yes, the
The
leg.
leg is this is an incredible story.
I don't know this story.
So the guy got his leg severed
By the train?
by the train.
Oh, Jesus.
And so the story goes that the man was just distraught with all sorts of things and stuff's happenings. And
They took him to that house to be convalesced, right? Because the lady who ran the house could care for him.
and that was the lawyer's wife.
Okay.
So that cellar was where she kept some of the medicines and things. And so I found a little bottle of the old school medicine this one time.
Get out.
And
All morphine.
yeah, something. I don't know. It was just
No, it was
Bottle.
really all morphine.
it was a brown bottle. And so you
Yeah.
couldn't tell anything about it, but
Yeah.
it just had a little quirky thing. And
But the story about the leg.
Mm-hmm.
You know the whole story?
I know quite a bit of it, maybe not all of it.
Okay, go for it.
So the guy was haunted by all of these things, and he was screaming like 24 hours a day.
The guy with
house.
the leg cut off.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And so everybody was going crazy trying to help him and figure out a solution. And he demanded his leg back.
Yes.
And they had buried his leg. And so they unburied his leg
Dug up his leg.
and gave it back to him. And
And
that's
then he healed.
What?
This is in the microfiche because when I first moved here, this was one of the very first stories I found and I printed.
655 North Arthur. That's
What do
my
you
old
mean?
house.
Yes.
Like-
So he was feverish and he was dying from infections, and she was trying to heal him.
Right.
And she finally said to the railroad, she said, "Go find his leg.
Yeah.
This is the only way this man is going to heal. Bring back his leg."
Oh, shit.
And they buried it in the yard, I think, at that house. But they brought it back, and once they made that connection of the leg being on the property, he healed and he was fine. Yeah.
Which, especially back in that day, if you lose a limb, like, whew, most of the time you're just gone.
Oh yeah. That's like bizarro story, and that is in the microfiche in the newspaper. I had no idea that was your house because I've told that story I don't know how many times.
Yeah, it's a cool story.
Oh my god, that's crazy.
So the ground period is weird. At
That makes sense.
the Stanrod house, I grew up playing at the Stanrod house. It used to be an old museum, and so it was a live-in museum, whatever that is. They have caretakers, and the caretakers took care of it and ran the museum. And they're usually good folks, and usually the museum wasn't busy, so that means Tim was playing. And
That is cool.
yeah, it was really cool. And they had an old basement too, and it was bare dirt. And yeah, nothing really weird happened to the dirt to me there, but the Stanrod house had bats. And so at night, I would stay outside and I would see the bats race and
That's
they would
so
do their
cool.
thing. And
Especially outside of the stand. That is the house you want
I
to see
know.
bats coming out of. That is cool shit.
yeah, it was awesome. And so the Stanrod house has a bunch of stories in itself, which is still technically Old Town to me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
as you go into Pocatello, the railroad is heavily influenced with all the things. And the Chinese folks had a bunch of underground tunnels all over, connected everything.
For building? Or
No, just so they would be not harassed, is basically what it boiled down to.
So there's, tunnels almost under every city.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know it was for that reason.
That and in hellacious winters, they can get around, and
There's lots of reasons, but
there's lots of reasons.
the bigger one was it was dug by the Chinese, and it was so they could have their own enterprise. Is that a good word? Yes?
Sure.
Enterprise. Engage. And anyway, so all of these buildings were connected, and especially to the schools. So Pocatello High School
Yeah.
connected to Irving and all sorts of things. Irving is kind of outside of the downtown, but it was a really long tunnel. And all of the old town was connected because the railroad tracks ran right through it.
Right.
So I tell you all of these stories to tell you this one. Da, da, da.
Something about tunnels and I don't do railroads. They creep me out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why.
So they say that Pocatello is cursed. And they say that if you don't take a jar of dirt from Pocatello when you move, that you're drawn back to Pocatello. And that,
God, I'm taking
Oh,
a
shit.
case of dirt.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's would have been good to know 20 years ago.
Hey, everyone,
Yeah.
get your
Get your
dirt.
jars. I'm taking a case.
And honestly, anybody I've ever talked to who's tried to leave without taking something, some of them say rocks work, but if you don't take something, you're drawn back and you have to come back. And it seems like every time that a paranormal, whatever you want to talk about, or a story, or weirdness, or whatever, it has to do with the dirt.
We've had a number of cases that had to do with. Remember that one that we had? It was down in Mink Creek area, and it was at
Yes.
yes,
Okay.
and it was out of the earth related. We could tell it was out of the earth related.
I think that's a lot has to do with the Native American Act, too.
So everybody's talked about the Native Americans
Yeah.
and I often wonder if it wasn't Chinese.
Yeah,
Because they were the ones
they built the
literally
railroad.
in
Yeah, the railroad.
and like in the dirt. They like
Yeah.
built the tunnels.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I propose that an ancient Chinese feller who does Chinese voodoo thing did stuff to the dirt. And that's why Old Town is the way it is. And that's why you had to take a jar of dirt with you if you want to get out of this place.
Oh,
We should do more research
taking
on
a
the
bucket
Chinese
of
history.
tractor dirt. I'm taking.
I'll help you load up your truck.
I'm taking a truckload of dirt with me when I leave. I'm just saying.
Choo-choo.
I don't want to come back. I don't have anything against Pocatello other than the winter. I'm just saying. I love Pocatello. I love the people. It's the winter.
I agree.
Mark, what do you think about, what is your favorite haunted location in Idaho?
Oh, no, I'm not really sure. I'm still trying to work on that Pocatello thing that Tim was just talking about.
Yeah.
I know my
I can
mind's
take, yeah, there's so many different directions I can take that.
You are welcome.
It's absolutely fascinating to me. It's, yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy to think about.
You had Craters of the Moon, right? Is that what
I
you did? Well, do tell.
You know,
'Cause it's such a neat place.
I'm very curious in that because I was raised 20 miles from Craters of the Moon.
Right,
Yeah.
in Arco, right?
On a side note, when I was young, my grandpa passed away when I was about 8, so in the time I had about 2 days off of school, I was in Pocatello, and I came in to stay with Grandma, and I lived with Grandma. And so I said he was raised over on Arthur. My grandma lived over on North Hayes,
Yeah?
right over there in that same part of town.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Yeah. Well, Craters of the Moon is a fascinating
It's
place.
about 20 miles from Craters, so I'm really curious about this one.
And it should be spectacular. We should take some of our equipment this spring.
Let's go. Can I bring Lou?
Yes, because we should take some of our equipment and videotape what because
Love
it's
craters.
freaking crazy active, and
Yes.
the wildflowers. They only get this high because there's no moisture out there, but they're spectacular in May.
So beautiful. Yes. Craters
Take
of
all the
moon.
kids, take the equipment, let's
Let's
make it a day.
do it. While I was researching, I was like, man, I got to get out there again this year.
Yeah, let's do it.
I love Craters of the Moon. If you haven't
Road
been there,
trip.
you're literally.
Let's do it.
Yes. And it's not that far. It's what, an hour and a
like an
2
hour
hours?
from here, hour and a half.
Depends, I guess, on which side you hit.
But let's do it.
You
It'll
guys
be a
need
fun
faster
little
cars.
trip.
Okay, Jim. we
We
got
don't have a
kids.
Hellcat, okay? We have a Chevy truck.
All right.
Okay, let's go for it.
Okay, Craters of the Moon. So, for those that maybe don't live in Idaho, it's a national monument, and it's essentially a big lava field, is what it is.
Yep.
And it's huge, and there's like lava flows, and there's caves, and it's pretty diverse, actually.
Yes.
I love Devil's Orchard. There's actually a lot of like biodiversity out there. You can like ski in the winter, camp, but it does have a little bit of a history.
Yeah.
And you have that one story that I think you should tell too. I couldn't find anything on that about the lady that fell through the tube.
Oh, this was just a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
The lava tubes are like glass.
Yeah, very
And there's
fragile.
tubes everywhere. So what a lava tube is when the lava's flowing and it cools, it can make little tiny caves.
Mm-hmm.
They're called tubes, and they're razor sharp,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like glass. And if you get off the trail,
Mm-hmm.
you can fall into a tube and never be seen again, and be just cut to shreds. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what happened with, oh gosh, I want to say it was in the last 5 years. Ladies from Boise or Nampa area, some doctors.
Oh yeah, yes, that's what I'm going to talk about.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
There's some weird stuff around that situation for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me.
Oh yeah. So, let me get back to the story. Yeah. So lava is cool, but it is one of those places that's pretty dangerous. Like Colleen was saying, you can't. The lava's sharp. It'll break you up.
Stay on the trails.
Yeah, there's tubes you can fall in. I mean, even doing the caving can be dangerous. The weather changes quick if you've ever been up there.
Well, that's Idaho.
Same. And there was Native American activity too, but they just kind of used the caves as they were passing through following wildlife. So I think some of the energy, you'll hear me say it a million times, but if there's Native American activity, there's ghosties. But anyway, a couple years ago, it was in 2013, 2 women actually went missing out there. They were 63 and 69, but they were active. They were outdoorsy. They were outdoors women. One of them had like survivalist accreditations.
Yep.
Like these were
I think
smart
she was the
women.
one who died.
Both of them.
Both of them died?
Both of them died.
Wait.
Yep.
This is a different story.
Oh, is it?
This is a different story.
So we have Joe Elliott Blakesley and Amy Linkert. This was in 2013. They went on a trip. So Joe was a physician, and Amy was a retired school teacher. Smart women. They went camping, and unfortunately, they went missing. But what is very odd, and it can be, so they set out on September 13th. I feel like the weather's pretty good out there,
it's
September
pretty good
13th.
in September,
but
yeah.
the weird thing is, so their families didn't hear from them on that Monday. The car was recovered, but they had left their dogs in the car, their cell phones, all of their food, anything you take hiking. So, your pack with your sunscreen, your snacks.
What would you... First off, you don't take dogs out there.
Yeah.
Because it'll cut their paws to shreds.
Yeah. Unless you've got... I know people use
I have
hiking.
booties for my...
Yeah.
But-
Or if you just stay on the trail. But these guys were camping, so... but yeah, it's still weird to leave your dog... If you're
in the car, though,
in
that's
September, the lava fields get really hot. They're
Yeah.
black. So, I mean, out there in September, if it's 80 degrees, it feels like it's 110.
Right.
You wouldn't leave your dogs in the car. So they left their dogs in the car, and unfortunately, the government was in the middle of a shutdown. So there were no government resources to conduct any kind of search. So some of the Forest Service still went out on foot to find them. And of course, it's weird. Their families, of course, said they wouldn't go off trail or out of sight because the dogs were in the car. avid hikers, survivalists. They didn't have their phone. So the search, they concentrated it within 5 square miles, thinking that they weren't going to be very far. And if you're familiar with lava, it was between tree molds, broken top loop, and wilderness trails. So just in that little area. They had 6,000 volunteers searching for hours. Again, they didn't have any government resources because of the shutdown. And I don't think they found them until like a couple weeks later, almost a month later. So Amy, who is the teacher, she was found face up on the lava. She was only wearing a short sleeve shirt and pants, but without a jacket. No backpack, no food, no water, nothing. And so rescuers said she was disoriented, died of exposure. But what is weird is after the search went on a whole extra month, they finally found Jo, but she was a mile away from Amy's body. 2.5 miles away from the pickup. That's a long way to hike if you're planning on leaving your dogs. In September, when it's hot, you would not leave your dogs in the car.
Up? I mean, normally when you go off, other than Tim, when we were down there in Vernal. But, why would you split up?
Yeah, so some think that maybe one got hurt and the other went to look for help, but there were no obvious signs of like a major injury. And again, like, yes, lava is extreme and you can die out there, but I don't know why they would have gone off trail.
That's
because you don't go off trail because it'll cut through your shoes. Like, you don't go off trail. So many questions remain about the case. So why did they leave their dogs? They wouldn't have hiked 2 miles without their dogs. It's too hot. Their dogs would have died. I kind of wonder if the dogs are okay. I don't even want to know. Right. And it says a storm did hit the area, but again, they were like survivalists, things like that. Amy was found face up, which is kind of weird, I guess. So they were separated.
If you go, on the other side of this national park, the Shoshone ice caves are on the other side.
Mm-hmm. Perfect leeway. Leeway. So there's a lot. I mean, it's a very sad story no matter what happened. But yes, the Shoshone ice caves are on the other side because this lava field stretches, 1,000 square miles?
Huge.
It's huge.
Think about it. We have old volcanoes all around this whole area.
Yeah, Idaho, this area of Idaho is basically just a lava bed. If you've never been here.
It's our own personal Hawaii.
It really is.
You got the water and the warmth.
And pineapples.
And the pineapples and...
Yeah. Basically, the only thing in common is the sharp, deadly lava.
Some of the caves out there, craters of the moon, you can go into in August, and it will still from the winter before.
Yep. So there's actual caves.
It's an incredible insult with the lava rock.
Yep.
Yep, and that's the ice caves. The ice caves are really cold. Even in the summer, there's still ice. The ice caves, they say, are really, really haunted.
Well, I think Andy did a small spot on the ice caves once. On one of our podcasts. Yeah, lots of activity.
That's what they say. They say the caves are rumored to be haunted. Staff and visitors claim to have heard voices coming from the cave, heavy footsteps. There's like bare bones, of course, that you can find.
Have you ever been down there? The ice caves?
I don't think so.
I want to go.
I think when I was like a toddler, I went, but I don't remember. I know that Princess Idaho died, and was buried somewhere down there. People claim to see her.
When you say bare bones, as in naked bare bones, or bare as in bear, I'm going to eat you with claws?
I'm going to eat you.
Okay.
Which, by the way, have been extinct in this area for a very long time, so it's very fishy as why there's brown bears bones down there.
Brown bear bones.
Spooky, huh? Yeah.
I wonder if they were brought in, though, like hunted, and the Native Americans.
Which is possible. But again, the Shoshone, they passed through these ice caves and stuff. They never fully inhabited it. They hid in the caves to protect themselves from the wind while they were following like elk and deer.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. But yeah, people say lots of ghosties there. It's spooky if you go out there.
I want to go.
It's very spooky.
I do want to go.
Have you gone?
I think, yeah, you got to wonder.
And people die out there all the time.
They would have probably hunted brown bear. and taking
Yeah.
them down into the caves in the wintertime to survive the elements and eating the bear.
Maybe.
You know?
Yeah, I have
But-
no idea. It's spooky. You look at the pictures, it's spooky. And the lava fields are eerie when you go
The
out
lava
there. It's
fields are
insane.
eerie. I the last time I was out there was when 4 years ago.
To craters?
No, 6, maybe 6.
Craters?
Yeah, and I went out during the wildflower bloom, spectacular.
so
but I
pretty.
was in an area by myself and was kind of overwhelmed with what I was feeling, and I had to leave
It's intense.
because I'm like I don't feel like I'm alone, but there were no other cars.
That's what's eerie too, is when you go out there, you can be literally the only one out there for miles.
Yeah.
And it is just,
Yeah,
you feel really alone.
Yeah.
In a way.
yeah.
And what's even more crazy is they take kids out there on a field trip and let them go spelunking in the cave. I don't understand how there's not ghosty children out there.
Yeah.
Scouts, that's how I got to know the ice cave.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
It
Got
is wild.
lost. Flashlight died. It was great.
Idaho is wild. Idaho was stuck in the 80s. They're literally like, oh, a bunch of kids, let's let them climb down in this cave. See you in 20 minutes.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you know, we survived the 80s. We'll survive now. Tim, what did you pick? Did you picked another one or just was it just Pocatello?
It was just Pocatello.
Okay.
What did you
Albion.
pick?
Yeah.
Oh, Albion.
It's a fan favorite from out here.
Yeah, everyone loves Albion.
Albion Normal School. So I had no idea what a normal school meant.
Mm-hmm.
They call it the Albion Normal School because in, I think, it was a teacher school. I don't know why they called it normal, though. That's weird to me. But it is, in 1979, they added it to the Historic Register. But I'm trying to remember, it was in the 1800s that 1893, it was established by the Idaho legislature. And it was one of 2 normal schools. The other one was in Lewiston. So I think what they meant by that was in a teacher college or teacher school. So Albion, if you've ever been there, it is don't blink, you will pass through it, kind of little town. This school was built, and I think there's 5 or 6 different buildings, and there are 2 or 3 story brick buildings that
They're
are up there.
big.
They're big. They're big.
Yeah, they're big.
Yeah. And it's been on ghost adventures, although highly blown up, not probably true.
Demons are everywhere.
Yeah, demons are everywhere. I've investigated the Albion. It is definitely active, but
Did you investigate the theater too?
yeah, it is definitely haunted. But there were not any satanic markings when I was there.
No, oh my gosh.
no.
Unless it's left over from when they do the haunted house thing.
yeah, and they do a haunted house there every year, and they have quite a number of actors that come in to help them with that. They do a fabulous job. So if you want to do a spooky haunted house, Albion's the way to go. And the neat thing about the haunted house is all of the proceeds go back into rehabbing the buildings. So
It's cool.
they do have, I think, rooms now for rent. Some of the buildings that have been fully rehabbed.
Really?
Yeah, you can rent now. People have family reunions up there.
I knew you
it's
could
it's
do
a
that.
really neat place. It's really neat. One of my friends, Eric, took a incredible photo. We were in, I think, we were in one of the dorms. We were down in the basement, and we were walking around, and he clicked a photograph. We were just clicking, phone photos, and it wasn't until like 2 weeks later he sent me the photograph. He goes, "Oh my God, look at this picture," and it was definitely a male figure standing down there, and there was no one else there.
Oh my God, I have to see this.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So we had a lot of experiences in the buildings. People have heard voices, heard sounds. They've seen apparitions. They've seen shadows. They've seen, it's whatever. Every thing that you can think of goes on there.
I mean, was there like any like traumatic situations there? Like
not that I could see that there wasn't anything like a murder or anything that happened there. I think it's just the fact that it's old, and a lot of people have lived there.
Leftover teacher residue.
Yeah, right. Residual haunts, but it's just you get a haunted place like that. I think like some of these psych buildings and TV wards and all that. A lot of death. I don't see there was death there. Not saying there wasn't, but I think it draws other activity.
I was gonna say,
activity draws activity.
Yeah, and I wonder if too people visiting it. I mean, at Halloween time when they do the haunted house, tons of people, and they're all putting that so much energy because people are excited, and so I wonder if it just stores that, and then it just.
It's definitely a neat place to go, and I would say if you want a spooky experience at Halloween, it's worth every penny.
It's so fun.
It's fun.
It's a good haunted
and
house.
it is truly haunted. So you have what they do to put on the show, and you have truly
real
haunted
ghosties.
building. Yeah.
So out of all the experiences that everybody's had in Idaho, what do you think's the most haunted? That we've been able to investigate. How about that? Hashtag. Stricker?
Where is that?
It's over out of Hanson, Idaho. By
is
Twin.
it?
Mm-hmm. Stricker Ranch was.
Yes, I know.
Mark, did you go to Stricker?
No, I didn't.
Stricker Ranch was absolutely, and we have a video of it.
To see this stuff.
Absolutely one of the most haunted places I've been to in Idaho. It was an old stagecoach stop, livery stable, general store, way house, like people could come in and stay for a couple of days and then travel on. Absolutely one of the most haunted places I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
Activity on every square inch of that ranch. Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know. So I've had lots of experiences everywhere, but I think the one that I've had the most like pokey at me weird experiences was the bowling alley.
Yeah.
I've heard lots about the bowling alley.
Yeah, we have a video on that too. That one got you.
Yeah.
That one got you.
Really?
That's good. Yeah, I had got everything at Tough Guy Lanes. It was quite the experience for this guy.
We were just setting up cameras in Tough Guy Lanes, Pocatello. We were just starting to set up cameras. We didn't even have them rolling yet. We were unpacking equipment. I think our static detector. There's the shelves behind, like you have the bowling lanes, and then you have the seats, and then you have a wall, like a half wall, a pony wall with some shelves, right? Where people, they put their drinks and their food. I had the static detector sitting there, and I'm talking to.
I've heard that place is full of jujus. Have you guys investigated any place in lava before?
We have not as a team.
Is that team?
No.
Not officially.
Not officially.
So my other place in Idaho was the White Horse Saloon, and it's supposed to be haunted. It's a 113-year-old hotel at Spirit Lake, and I have got to go see this
Where
place.
is that?
It's, I think, out of Salmon. I'm thinking.
Oh, okay.
Or Stanley, somewhere up in there.
Stanley.
It's the White Horse Saloon, Grill, and Hotel. It's been around for, like I said, 113 years.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm. Opened in 1907, and it was it's on the historic register. And people believe that it's a lot of people have seen who they dubbed Big Girl. She shows up in room 2. She's been felt all around the building. I don't know what she looks like. I can't find a description, but I don't know.
Probably big.
Probably
a big girl. I'm thinking that usually these hotels had a red
brothel?
light. Yeah, a brothel.
It's okay. I'm from Nevada. You can say it out loud.
Brothel up in the upstairs, and so I'm assuming she was probably one of those ladies of the evening who hung out upstairs.
Love that for her.
She's been felt all around the building, and then other people have seen objects moving randomly, doors slam, unexplained footsteps, and full body apparitions.
Turns out we're going.
Oh, there's an enormous hamburger on a website that Tim just found.
This place looks neat. Look at the original. We're looking at pictures. There's original beams.
Oh, neat. A lot. It's cool that some of these historic places, like even in Pennsylvania, they were built in the 1600s and they haven't burned down. You know what I mean? So you go in and you can see them.
Yet.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Idaho has a lot of every state has a lot of haunted activity if you look for it. But these western states, they're transient. They were transient people.
Yeah.
They didn't come in like on the East Coast. People came in and they were settling and they stayed. On the West Coast, it was a lot of violent activities.
I was gonna say so violent.
Very violent, and with Indian issues, we had either the whites killing the Indians or the Indians killing the whites, and the white settlers coming through and trying to settle out into this western United States. And so it was a very violent, very different. So, of course, the East Coast, there was violence when the Pilgrims came in and tried to settle, but the West was, I think, so much more violent.
Yeah, I agree.
And tribes against tribes. It wasn't just whites and Indians, it was Indians against Indians, right? Because that's the whole Skinwalker legend, right? Was the curse of the Skinwalker. So you had...
So creepy.
Yeah, you had a lot of bloodshed. And it's like... So I do a lot of research with places in haunted locations in Idaho and elsewhere, and it's built on an Indian burial ground. Well, if almost everything has somewhere, if you dig long enough, you're going to find a skeleton.
Yeah.
Because there's just bodies.
Yeah.
How many millions of bodies are there out here?
And you just think about people moving, because people moved, followed wildlife, were moving. People
weren't,
died,
they didn't come to a home and build a home and stay forever. They were transient, and they moved around
and people just died, and you left them. That was your choice.
Well, what do you do?
Didn't take them with you.
Yeah.
Well, so for the record, the Spirit Lake is by Coeur d'Alene.
Oh, it's Coeur d'Alene. Okay.
Way up yonder.
Which is absolutely beautiful. And a lot of haunted stuff.
I was going to say, it is spooky up there.
It is.
It is beautiful.
Never been there. I've never been.
It's got your haunted lake.
I know. I need to go.
Wow. So yet another haunted Idaho episode, and
my favorite.
I love these locations. We could talk literally for hundreds of episodes on how many haunted locations there are in Idaho.
Haunted Idaho.
So every once in a while we throw one in, so you have to keep listening to Speaking of Spirits.
They're the best.
Thank you everybody for joining in, and we are signing off.
Bye.
You've been listening to Speaking of Spirits, powered by Pocatello Paranormal Research in Pocatello, Idaho. Thank you for joining us today. We're glad you could be here. If you're enjoying the podcast, please do us a favor and go to whatever platform you are listening to the podcast on and give us a review. We prefer the 5-star reviews. This helps us know how we're doing, and it helps others to find the podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you on our next podcast.